It's lovely to be here today. You guys have a fantastic view. I'll stand over here so you can actually see the good view. I see a lot of friendly faces in the audience, and probably a lot of you have heard me talk about the President's management agenda before, so hopefully this isn't too much of a repeat. But we keep drilling down on some of the same basic ideas because we want to get coalescing activity across the executive branch, Congress, and the good government community in order to make progress. We all can pull together to actually make a difference. So the journey that I think we're on is actually, as you all know, not a brand new journey. It's a journey that the government has been on since its inception. The founders had this idea of government that was to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, to preserve the blessings of liberty. I learned that in Schoolhouse Rock. I don't know about you guys. Politically, there are disagreements about exactly what those things mean. But when we survey the American people and ask them, what do they think the federal government should be doing? They think most of the things that the agencies of the executive branch are things government should be doing. You know, not at the program level, but at the highest conceptual level. But when we ask those people, and there's some Pew Research data in the President's Management Agenda document, when we ask the American people how well they think we're doing in delivering against those missions, the numbers aren't great in a lot of areas. And when we actually dug in and got data around what was the challenge wasn't that people didn't want to do a good job. The challenge wasn't that we didn't know what good mission looks like. You know, anytime you see a feel-good story about people being rescued from fires or floods or now lava flows, we know what it takes to do a good job. We know what it took to put men on the moon. We know what it means when we're attacked, how to defend our homeland. But when the cause isn't urgent, or it's diffuse, or it's not well understood, years and years of practice and experience and bureaucracy have built up and gotten in the way of real clarity around what does it take to deliver mission, outstanding service, and stewardship that's appropriate to the fiscally challenging times that we're in. And when we looked at, you know, what was getting in the way, it was three things. It was old IT. In some cases, the IT is so old that it's coded in languages that the people who learned how to do those languages have long since retired. And we've had to train up new generations of people in languages that they don't teach in universities anymore. You know, the words assembler and COBOL don't make a lot of intuitive sense to people like my 17-year-old son who can program in like, I don't know how many languages, but he doesn't even know what that is. We still have systems stuck in fundamentally 70s, 80s, maybe 90s code, and then the handful of things that we've modernized since then, but still mostly 20th century IT. Data, so much of what we do, I would actually argue, underlying everything we do is the data that we use to deliver services. And we use data to provide information to Congress. We use data to provide information to the American people about how we're using taxpayer money. We use data to figure out how to better deliver mission. But when I talk to people about big data in a 21st century context, when I first got here, you know, all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed from the private sector, if I was talking to an evidence-based policy person, big data meant one thing. If I was talking to an IG, it meant something entirely different. If I was talking to somebody on the Hill, it meant still another thing. Our data systems, our taxonomy, even how we architect our data infrastructure is outdated and really hard to use across applications. And so investing in a modern architecture, investing in really boring stuff like taxonomy and metadata and basic data hygiene, stuff that, like it's not gonna capture hearts and minds in the Twitterverse, right? Well, maybe some of our Twitterverse, but I would follow it. But we have to invest in that. And then last, when I put in the president's management agenda these 3 gears, IT is where we have to start. Data is where we start to get stuck sometimes. Where a lot of projects grind to a halt is actually in the workforce of the 21st century. Not as many might think because we don't have good people. That's nonsense. We have great people. But if we're trying to use business process automation to retire legacy systems, and we have outdated Title V frameworks that make it difficult to move people around, make it difficult to train someone who is taking data from one system or from a fax and rekeying it into another system to change their job. If we have union contracts that prohibit exactly the same thing, it makes it impossible to cost effectively invest in new technology. I heard of a case relating to NASA where they said, yeah, there's a perfect robotics process automation opportunity, but there's 300 people that we can't redeploy to something else. And the more I dug and the more I dug, the more sort of like crazy and convoluted the answers about why not? Why couldn't we train these people to do something else? Why couldn't we redeploy them, to serve the American people more directly? And it's because our workforce is subject to laws and frameworks that were fundamentally designed in 1923, updated in 1949, and then the last time they were actually updated was in 1978. Guess what they coded in 1978? Anyone want to guess? Assembler and Fortran and COBOL. Things that are out of date. They don't keep up with the digital age. So that was why the rallying cry and why we keep repeating and focusing on these 3 buckets. It's not to say these are new ideas or these are things that uniquely this administration thought of. We know previous administrations have made investments in these areas, and we're continuing those sound investments where they make sense. We're grateful that the IT Modernization Fund is up and running. That concept, predates certainly me, but we are very grateful for the work that was done in Congress to get the Modernizing Government Technology Act passed that allows working capital funds to free up money for technology. Gary Washington from USDA will talk about how they're thinking about that. We also have the Technology Modernization Fund, which is it's not a ton of money, but it's money that we can use to jumpstart projects that maybe people were concerned wouldn't have an ROI, or maybe people were concerned the government's not going to be great at implementing technology X. We can use that money to prove out proof of concepts that allow us to invest further. So a lot of you all know there's 14 items, the cross-agency priority goals, that outline the specific action-oriented activities that we have. There's a range of things we're doing to build up support infrastructure around this. The centers of excellence are part of that. We're looking at a range of things on the workforce front, the leveraging data as a strategic asset. Cross-agency priority goal is focused on what do we need to do and what do we need to measure to ensure we're making progress on these big, lofty goals. At the end of the day, what's most important for me is to remember why we're doing this. I just came back from New York. My dad's sick, and I was up kind of battling with the medical system and actually using data to help solve a problem around uncoordinated healthcare. But when an average American from upstate New York who's an elderly person who's worked all of his life is trying to deal with an important issue in his life, bureaucracy should not be the thing that adds stress to his already stressed life. If somebody is worried about their home being inundated by flood or by, lava, not being able to get through on the telephone or find information on their mobile phone or online, that is not okay. And fundamentally, the people who will ensure that we can stay focused on the missions that we have and serving the American people the way they deserve to be served is the workforce that we have. And I want to be really, really clear about this. We value the workforce we have. And when we talk to the workforce that we have, there's something called the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey that if you haven't filled out and you're a federal employee, it's going on now, please do it. It's incredibly useful. What employees tell us more than anything that they feel affects their ability to serve mission, service, and stewardship are bad apples. They don't believe today, again, because the outmoded civil service system that we have, they don't believe, our own employees who are on the front line serving our people, they don't believe that we take care of the people who are abusing the American people's trust. They don't believe that because it's so difficult to deal with that. They don't believe that pay is at all linked to how much effort, how much progress, how much merit people actually have. The whole point of Title V is merit system principles. It's about paying people based on how they're deserved, but our own employees, 2.1 million civilian employees, do not believe, they do not believe that we are doing that. I am looking to this community. This community reflects the people that work day to day on the issues that may be boring to everyone else, but we know are absolutely critical to giving the American people what they deserve and spending the American tax dollar wisely. And so what I'm asking every time I go out and talk to a group of people, and I'll talk to anyone, I mean, truly. So if you want me to talk, follow up with Jacob, and they don't let me make my own appointments because that would be madness. But I want people to be excited, and here's what I mostly want. I want us all to believe that we can actually make a difference, that we can make change happen. And my belief, and I've got a lot of experience doing transformational change projects that people kept telling me, you're naive, you can't do that, that's never going to happen. In my experience, it's about focusing on a few core things: mission, service, stewardship, IT modernization, data accountability, transparency, and people in the workforce. Winning hearts and minds, and having perseverance, and having the ability to ask, why not? You can't do that. Why not? You can't do that. How might we? And I'd like to ask you to join me in that journey in asking, how might we? And the point is, people like me come and go. You guys have seen, dozens of people just like me talking about these things. The difference, hopefully this time, is we're thinking about an integrated system of problems, and we're going to stay focused and recognize the real momentum, the real power dynamic for these gears turning. We might be ignition, but the real engine, the real fuel, the real power comes from the people who have been here and doing this work and focusing on this. So in closing, I'll just say, take the momentum and the little bit of marketing that we're doing in this administration and own it. And it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. Think about the American people, that mission, service, and stewardship. You know, I think about my parents, and I think about my 17-year-old and 14-year-old sons. I came to Washington because I'm that naive. I want to make this country a better place for the people I care about. And I actually believe if we all go in the same direction, we can do it. So hopefully that's your morning inspiration. You're going to hear tons of really great practical insights from the people who are really getting this done. And I'm really excited to have folks like Gary Washington as partners in this effort. You know, I'm excited to see many of the people I know who care about these issues. So I want to thank you all for your service, your dedication, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.